Hey guys. All right. So today I want to share with you exact numbers about how a home equity line of credit, just one debt weapon that we teach about here on this channel, retired me. I live full time in a fifth wheel now, and how I would actually go back and do it differently if I had a time machine. I actually think I might have done it entirely wrong. So we're going to get into all that on today's video. Make sure you stick around. We've got some very special information to go over with you. All right, guys. So for those of you that are new to our channel, first, welcome, of course. My name is Matthew. I'm now living out of an RV, which has been one of my lifelong fantasies, which was to achieve financial independence and travel the country full time in an RV. And it's mostly off grid at this point, which has been incredible. We installed solar on the roof, and we even found a way to stay in some of the most beautiful parts of the country absolutely for free. That's going to be shared with you on a future video. So make sure you're a subscriber to the channel if you're not one already. Today, I want to show you the exact techniques that I used from this channel that retired me. And then it allowed me and my fiance, my two puppies, one of which you may see behind me here, to do what we want, when we want, wherever we want, for as long as we want. And we even get to ignore price tags. We get to be generous. We get to be selfish. And we really, frankly, don't care about prices much at all at this point. For those of you guys that are willing to push yourself, it might even mean a way out of your day job too. So this is a really cool video, guys. I hope you stick around to the end. I've got friends of the channel here with me again today, Michael and Katrina Stead. And guys, they truly hold the key to doing this the right way, making all of this happen for any one of you. And in some cases, it may even cost you absolutely nothing out of pocket to make it all work. So I'm going to come back to them for the second half of the video so that we can get a sense of how their model and their approach to the short-term rental business varies from my own, and why I regret not doing mine their way. So be sure to jot down this email address. It's bnbbootcamp@vipfinancialeducation.com. You're going to want that by the end of this video, I promise you, and make sure you stick around all the way to the end. I've also got Michael Matthew on the line with us here today too. I'm going to refer to Michael Matthew today as Matthew, just because it seems like we may have a Michael coup on our hands here. You know, as you guys know, he's been an incredible co-host of the channel while I've been out on my adventures. He's been filling my shoes and doing a terrific job keeping you guys informed of all the education you need to be staying on top of your finances and really building wealth over time. But not only is he a great friend and a great filler here on the channel, he's also a really successful entrepreneur. And he takes an alternative approach to entrepreneurship than me, where really for, you know, the last 7 years of our friendship, you know, he's always been focused on growing businesses. And I was too in past chapters of entrepreneurship. You know, he's excellent at team building, scalability. And so it's a really good balance to my preference today, which is being as lean and mean as possible so that I can be as mobile as possible. And listen, there's not a right or wrong way of going about building business. It's purely subjective preference overall. Some of you might be happy making more than enough to live your ideal life, and some of you might want to be a billionaire. And the thing is, I've never heard of anyone earning tens of millions of dollars, much less billions, who don't have a considerable team or a staff that supports them. And at this point in my life, that's just not my preference. So that doesn't mean that I don't heavily rely on other people. I do. Everyone from my cleaner to my mentors, to contractors, to business partners in some cases, they're all essential to my success. But I do find that growing large teams and having a lot of families relying on me for payroll, it's just very stressful, and I don't find it as enjoyable as I used to right now. So I want Matthew here with us so that he can be a counterpart and play the devil's advocate on behalf of our entire audience, you. And hopefully he'll be able to jump in and just sort of challenge my approach, or ask for further explanation behind the stuff that I'm doing and the stuff that Michael and Katrina are doing as well. So we're going to get into all that today. The first thing I want to start off with is a crowd favorite here on the channel, which are exact numbers. I want to go through my personal example and run through with you exactly how one home equity line of credit retired me without any money out of my own pocket at all. And then we're going to discuss exactly why I think that was the wrong way to do it, and how I could have done it much better and probably earned substantially more money if I was familiar with the how in the second half of the video. So I suppose that the full-time RV life really actually began in early 2018. I had paid off a $220,000 mortgage in full. I did that over about a 6-year period. And I did that using the exact same techniques that I teach here on the channel. I've been teaching for 10 years. It was a 30-year mortgage. So I did that much, much faster than what I originally agreed to. And it truly changed my life in many ways. There are arguments that support not paying mortgages off more quickly, but there are a lot of advantages to doing so. And it's one of those things that allowed me to gain this really large equity position on a property where I was able to open up a $250,000 home equity line of credit. And I just let it sit there unused while I was waiting for the perfect opportunity to use it. And in September of 2018, I actually found a home that we thought had a lot of untapped potential to generate significant revenues. And with a lot of persistence, we ultimately ended up, through hard work, getting to a closing table in February of 2019. It's never easy acquiring homes. Let me tell you, it's very difficult going through the lending process, even as an A-paper borrower. It's just a tough time to be a buyer, especially now compared to them. But I was able to use the home equity line of credit for my 20% down payment. Now, the purchase price was $610,000. So I used almost exactly $125,000 of the $250,000 available after closing costs to make that purchase. Now, in addition to that, I needed $75,000 for the furnishing, the decor, and to fully stock the property. And that included things like a $10,000 hot tub. I replaced the hot water and heater and boiler to give unlimited hot water for guests. And I really went over the top anywhere I could, including additional landscaping. I sodded the backyard, added irrigation, and so forth. So some of those were more expensive, but after spending $200,000, we were ready to go. Now, I do want to add a side note here that because of the upgrades that I put into that property, it's worth somewhere in the ballpark of about $900,000 now. And I do also accelerate the elimination of that current mortgage as well. So that mortgage balance is somewhere around the $447,000 point. So after adding $200K to that borrowed from the other home, there is currently about $250,000 worth of equity that's built up already. And that's certainly great. But here's the thing. Equity, I love. It feels nice on paper, but it really doesn't pay any bills. Cash flow does. And that means that we need the income, folks. And to solve the cash flow equation here, we decided to turn this property into what I call a lifestyle asset. And that's where we get to use and enjoy something that we own whenever we want, but it also makes us money. It also earns us an income. And so we listed it on VRBO. And let's just take a look at exactly what has happened over just the last 2 months. I just kind of want to use a 60-day current collection of numbers just to give you a status update here, because I have featured this property before. And this will include both the income and the expenses in order to outline precise cash flow and show you guys that it may be easier than you think to create a formula for retirement. As long as you're willing to think out of the box and you can use the ingredients that are available to you to your benefit that you may just not be aware of right now. So I do want to include the rental income from, as well as the expenses from the other property, from the rental property that I borrowed the HELOC from, because that's obviously going to offset, I need to make sure I'm offsetting that loan because I did borrow the down payment for the subject property for the rental, for the VRBO. So let's go through June. On June 1st, I generated $2,925 of income from that rental property from the current tenant. I also generated $384.24 from VRBO on June 1st. On June 7th, I generated $1,992.98. On June 8th, I generated another $1,600 from VRBO. I rented that actually to friends. Rented the property again and generated on June 15th, $1,901.26. June 22nd, $1,921.44 from VRBO. June 25th, $2,150.69 from VRBO. June 29th, $1,797.56 from VRBO. So June totals with the rental income from the long-term tenant on the rental property and the guest rents totaled $14,673.17. Now let's go through the expenses quickly. We had 7 cleanings. These are professional deep cleans totaling $1,260. I cleaned the hot tub professionally as well. That cost me $175. That was for 5 professional cleanings of the hot tub. The lawn was mowed 5 times for a total of $175 as well. Amenities totaled $250. That was for the K-cups, shampoos, conditioners, all the various things that allow the house to function for guests. Utilities and Wi-Fi came out to $438.21. And then we have the PITI for both properties. The primary or subject here, the VRBO, is $24.72.60. The PITI for the rental is $25.10.19. So total expenses here came out to $7,281, guys. June Airbnb net cash flow for us was $7,392.17 with just one home. Our total expenses in the RV for June came out to $5,830. That's the total cost of the truck, the total cost of the RV, the total cost for insurance on both, gasoline, RV parks, memberships, food, drinks, shopping, every other expense aside from the investments that I'm making and the additional principal and debt reduction payments that I'm making, which leaves $1,562 in surplus cash flow. And it only took me a couple hours worth of work for June. Now, July, $29.25 from my long-term tenant on the rental that we used the HELOC from, $17.43.67 from VRBO on July 6th, $25.47.35 from VRBO also paid out on July 6th. July 11th, VRBO paid me $19.01.09. July 14th, $24.63.42. July 17th, $24.47.75. July 26th, $15.17.64. July 29, $22.27.80. July total came out to $17,773.72. After 8 cleanings of $1,440, 4 hot tub cleanings of $140 going into the lawn mowing, the amenities of $250. Again, this is an average for the year. Utilities of $438.21, and the PITI on both properties of $24.72.60 and $25.10.19. Total expenses were $73.91. So our July Airbnb net cash flow came out to $10,382.72 with one frickin' property. And that's without any money out of pocket, my friends. That is with the HELOC that paid for all of this being covered from the income that we're generating. That PITI is included in there. After all RV expenses to live in the rig and live out our dream lifestyle, we spent $42.17.38, which means that the net of all of this left us $6,165.34 for the month of July, where we just have that extra money to try and figure out what to do with it. So we're on pace right now to pay off the rig and the truck by March of 2022. 58% of those have been paid off already in just the last 12 months. And when that happens, the cash flow will be going up by another $1,518 each month. That's not counting all the money, obviously, that we'll save by not spending the extra each month on additional principal reduction to pay them off much more quickly. But this was totally organic, right? This happened based on an equity position that existed in a home that I already owned. Most of you probably have an equity position because of how on fire the market has been, which means that if you have a $350,000 value on your home and you only owe 200 grand, you could go out right now and through PenFed Credit Union, which is Pentagon Federal Credit Union, you could get up to 90% combined loan to value. You could walk away with a $115,000 available home equity line of credit and go out and replicate a process that's similar to this and get this process going. But what did I say from the beginning, folks? That there are multiple ways of going about short-term renting. The first is you can do it the way I did it, which is I went out and I bought a property. And again, there's this sort of intrinsic value that comes with the ownership aspect of a property, of doing short-term renting where you own it. But it was extremely expensive. Putting 200 grand into this to make this kind of money is a good ROI, but I could have scaled this a lot better had I been more familiar with the other 2 options to begin with. And that included the arbitrage option or the partnership option. And that's why we brought Michael and Katrina Stead back onto the channel, because these guys have been welcomed on our channel since last fall. We have had a tremendous number of people who have engaged with them and have signed up for their coaching. That program, which has now been enhanced even further into an environment where you get to work with an entire group and you get the interaction of multiple people that are growing alongside you. These people have been coming in and absolutely slaying it. And we'll leave links in the description below to all of those videos, including testimonials of people that are really out there crushing it right now. But I wanted them to come back on and really try and give further explanation and clarity behind why my approach might have not been the right way of doing it, where I could have taken that same 200 grand and probably gone out and 10x'd the results that I'm getting right now. So without further ado, let's give that email address one more time so that you guys can write this down and send an email if you want additional information about their turnkey process for making this happen. The email address is bnbbootcamp@vipfinancialeducation.com. That's bnbbootcamp@vipfinancialeducation.com. That'll be in the description below for you guys as well. Do you guys have any questions about how I went about doing this? Matthew, Michael, Katrina, any reaction to that strategy there? Because we're obviously happy with the results we're getting at the moment from a cash flow standpoint.
You guys are absolutely crushing it. My only question would be singular. Why are you getting the hot tub cleaned every time?
Because it's disgusting in theory.
Obviously, that's all total joke. So that'll probably be cut. No, I love that. And obviously, your model is that at this point, you said you spend, we talked offline this morning, you're spending maybe 5 to 10 minutes a day at this point working on that. Obviously, you had some groundwork to lay. My background is much different from that. I've grown companies from 0 to 20 million, and it's labor intensive. I've got employees anywhere from 10 to 40 in a current business right now. So I've got some passive strategies as well. I love what you're doing. I'm not involved actively in the Airbnb or the VRBO. Obviously, I'd love to go through the boot camp with Michael and Katrina, because I think what they're doing is amazing right now. So I like your counter approach, with talking to them about, the partnerships and the arbitrage. Arbitrage is something that I specifically do in one of my businesses, Pink, where I'm able to go out there and secure high-end residential real estate, retail-based real estate, without having to lay that capital on the table. So if you had it to do all over again, my question for you would be, would you do it completely differently? Obviously, you've got an asset, a hard asset that you're able to leverage to do what you're doing, but let's rewind the tape, 3 years at this point. And I've been to that place. It's phenomenal, in the Buena Vista, not Buena Vista, correct?
That's right.
Yeah.
Got it. Piss off the locals, buddy.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. Beautiful property. Would you do it differently? Knowing what you know now.
Well, now knowing what I know now, here's the thing. Even if I didn't have the hard asset with the equity position, there would be ways for me to go out there and get access to an unsecured version of a debt weapon that works similarly to a home equity line of credit. I would get access to the liquidity. That's step one. That would happen no matter what. Number two is I would use that leverage differently to enter into the partnership space that Michael and Katrina talk about. I would have invested into them. I didn't know them at the time. I found them last summer, invited them onto the channel after seeing that they had over 1,000 bookings in something like 20 months worth of business. Absolutely phenomenal personal results. So they can get into their personal story again here shortly. But yeah, I would have used a portion of that unsecured or secured liquidity to engage with a mentor like Michael and Katrina, to have them just simply show me the ropes, because the partnership version that they're about to share with us gives us a more streamlined version of participating in the profits without being responsible for acquiring a mortgage and carrying it for 30 years and paying hundreds of thousands of dollars in unnecessary interest costs. And then still on top of all of that, worrying about the management and upkeep of the property, along with the furnishings that personally I spent $75,000 for. So these guys have figured out a loophole. This is a hack to getting involved into short-term renting without all of the downsides that I've personally experienced. So going back, that's what I would do differently. I would get the liquidity, but I would spend it differently. I would hire people like them to show me how to do it the right way one time. And then I would go out there and just start scaling it out. And like I said, I easily could have 10x'd my results with that same amount of availability. So without further ado, let's bring these guys on. Let's have them kind of clarify for us what exactly is partnership. Again, if you want to reach them, it's BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com. put conversation in the subject line, and obviously put your first name, last name, and phone number in the email body so that they can get back to you, because we do have a very, very limited availability as far as what they're accepting today. This is not something that they're taking everybody for. To my knowledge, they're only accepting 10 people after today's video. So guys, why don't you share with us, kind of fill in the gaps. Where do you think I went wrong, and how are you guys doing it right, so that people can avoid my mistakes?
Well, thank you so much for having us back on the show again today.
We really appreciate it. Honestly, it's always a pleasure. It's a great conversation, and we love doing this, and also connecting with your audience too. It's just amazing. And also, I mean, the biggest thing is connecting with, people that chime into your guys's, audience, and also coming onto our program and really seeing the results. That's what drives us 100%.
So to kind of break it down, so you.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna comment on that. You've had amazing results. I mean, a lot of people have engaged since you guys got started last fall, and it's, we're going to keep bringing those folks back on, because I think hearing it directly from the participants is super helpful to the audience. So we're going to have a couple more people that are really getting early results quickly back. But again, check the links in the description. You guys can see what other folks are doing. Don't take it from any of us. Take it from the people that are actually doing it. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think you correctly identified. I mean, there's a number of different ways that you can put a short-term rental transaction together, but really when you boil it down, there's only really three. So the first way is, as you correctly identified, you can just simply go and own the property. Absolutely nothing wrong with that. And I think based on the numbers, any sensible person looking at that would go, wow, that sounds pretty damn good. I want to get some of that, right? The challenge though with ownership is, unless you have reasonably deep pockets, it's not a very scalable venture, right? Because eventually you run out of equity, you run out of, available credit to you. It's a much longer term gain, right? So in our case, we do things a little bit differently. Not to say that any one is necessarily better than the other. Of course, there's always pros, cons to every single approach you take. But the other two ways, the second way is called rental arbitrage. So the idea there is, rather than owning the property, paying a mortgage to a bank, you're essentially controlling somebody else's property through the way of a lease agreement. So it's paying rent to a landlord, and then you're selling the nights on that particular property at a higher price than what it's costing you to carry it on a monthly basis. So that's one way. And our journey, that's how we started. So we got up to around 5-6 properties that way while we were still working full time. So just kind of doing this on the side. The problem though, even with that particular model, is there is still some capital intensiveness to it. So the three biggest costs are rent, damage deposits, and furnishings. So what happened was, to be transparent, we got up to around 5-6 units. We started to run out of capital to expand further. And we're just like, well, right now it's like we have to wait for the income to come back in. So we build up a big enough pool to then deploy into the next deal. It just felt too slow, at least for us. I mean, we're just not very patient people, I guess.
Like we wanted to really grow and scale this. So as Michael said, we got to about 5-6 properties, and we're like, okay, it's a little bit like the slow boat to China right now. I'm like, how do we go a little bit quicker? We're capped out right now. How do we go faster? And essentially we had a meeting, like just the two of us, and we said, okay, well, management meeting, really important. Yeah. So essentially if we, if it's damage deposit, furnishings, and lease agreements, those three things are slowing us down. What if we just stopped paying those? What if, right? And essentially at that point, any new deal that we went into, we said, yeah, for sure. We'd love to, work with you, start, having short-term rentals at your property. However, Mr. and Mrs. Landlord, we don't pay for furnishings, we don't pay for rent, and we don't sign a lease agreement. However, this is the benefits of how we can partner with you. So you can actually make more money off of your property and, get actual, like assets and more cash flow from the property of what you want, and have it completely passive. And this is how you can partner with us. So essentially that just like put this whole thing on his head, flipped on his head. And now we almost strictly do partnerships at this point too.
So that's the third method. So that's what we call short-term rental partnerships.
If you don't mind me hitting pause on that, and you just kind of hit a really positive nerve there, Katrina. So what's your approach to those folks? All right, so I'm going to take over some partnership in your home, and you don't have to give away your secret sauce. Of course, on this channel, that's part of your coaching.
No,
you guys to do a deeper dive on that, but what's that?
No, give it away.
Give away the secret sauce. Let's do it.
a little bit of context on that. So your approach to someone that's obviously owner on title, whether it's a apartment complex or whether it's, single family homes. Okay, so I'm going to partner with you. I've got this kind of special sauce, if you will. I'm not buying any furniture and I'm not paying any rent or mortgage to you. To me, playing devil's advocate on behalf of the channel, that sounds like kind of a tough sell. I mean, give me a little background on that.
Yeah, because at first, like when we first bring this up in conversation, naturally what comes up, people say like, who the hell would do that with you guys, right? Like what sensible person would say, okay, so I'm going to make the investment and then you guys are going to, we're going to partner. Like, how does that even work, right? The thing you have to keep in mind is that what a lot of people don't realize what it actually means to be a landlord. They don't understand all the pain, the frustrations, the headaches, the challenges, the pitfalls that actually comes along with being in that person's position. So, the average person that owns investment real estate, typically their experience is, they buy a property, they get a tenant in it, depending on what it is, they might make a few $100s a month in cash flow because it's a long-term game, right? And then by the time that lease comes up, that person moves out and all that supposed profit that they made just ends up getting recycled back into the property for maintenance. And, and that's assuming that was a good tenant, right? If the tenant doesn't pay or, they trash the place and then, then they have so there's headaches that go along with it, right? So the bottom line is what it comes down to is the value proposition that we're bringing to the table. So in our case, we just basically have a conversation saying like, listen, based on what you're asking for in rent, you could potentially earn substantially more on your property than what you're currently marketing it for a monthly rent. But, if you're willing to make that investment in furnishings in order to get it set up to be ready as a short-term rental, well, not only could you potentially make a lot more money with your property, well, you don't even have to do any of the work in order to manage the rental itself. That's where we come in and that's where we actually partner together, right? So that being said, we'll walk through a few different examples on the call here today, just so you can see how we've actually structured a few of these arrangements and walk through some actual real numbers. Because one of the biggest advantages, if you learn how to control other people's properties without having to have investment in them, you get the best of both worlds with real estate, which is you get to participate in real estate, but you don't have to have substantial amounts of money and you don't have to tie up a huge amount of credit and leverage in order to do it. So you can basically engineer it so you have debt-free cash flow coming into your bank account every single month.
I mean, it's genius. It's a genius model. You guys have ultimately pioneered this too, if I'm being honest, because I've done enough homework to know that the arbitrage model, while popular, it going head to head with the partnership model doesn't really compete. And I don't see anyone else talking about the partnership model, and you guys didn't have anybody else there to help you. So full transparency, anyone listening to this right now could go out and attempt to do this on their own. You do not need the hand holding that would help you tremendously avoid the missteps and the expensive mistakes that would be happening should you choose to do it on your own. So yeah, why don't you show us this first example? And then for those that are like me and are looking at this and saying, okay, I already know for sure this is the direction I want to go. I love the idea of the hospitality business. I think I'd be great at it. These guys clearly know what they're doing. They're $1 million earners in this space already, and they're the leaders in this specific version of it. We'll talk a little bit about what you're doing as far as this special offer for early birds for our audience, and then we can get into the other two examples. Okay.
100%. Yeah, that sounds great. So if anyone wants to get into more specifics and learn how to do this, if you just want to write us at BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com. So that's BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com.
Right now, guys, what Matthew is saying is right now we have our elite BNB Bootcamp Masterclass occurring. We only have 10 spots available for anyone that's wanting to learn, be mentored directly by us. Right now, only for the audience of Michael and the VIP financial audience. Essentially, what we're doing here is the first 4 students that we take on is going to have a discount of $9,997. to get into this. Typically our program, guys, because it's high in demand and also it's our time, it's what we have available. We want to give as much time we can to our students. Typically we have this for $18,000. However, just because, you know, our relationship with VIP Financial and any of the students coming in, first 4 students will get for $9,997. Anyone coming after that will be at a discount still for the $11,997. So again, it's capped off like that. We just have to make sure we focus on the students and make sure their success as well, that they're getting as much as they can from the program.
Let's walk through a couple.
I just want to interrupt you and say thank you. We do always appreciate that you guys offer preferential treatment to the folks here on the channel. They always appreciate it. And frankly, everybody that I see that's actually following what you're telling them to do, and they're just going by the blueprint and they're taking the action and they're working the system, they're making their money back in a matter of a couple or even just a few short months. This is not something that takes a long time to recoup money. And frankly, we've been having conversations back and forth because we actually coach each other. And I've been saying this is a $50,000 program, folks. So don't be surprised if in a year or two down the road, you're seeing a $50,000 price tag on this. This is not something that you want to sit and wait on. And frankly, I'm not sure why you would want to wait on your future anyway, because that's the main thing you have to lose here is time. And time is money and money is freedom. So ultimately, stop kicking the can down the road and let's get this thing rolling, folks. This is it. These guys are not going to keep giving these discounts. So again, thank you so much for doing this for us this time around. We appreciate it.
Yeah, and we really appreciate, everything that you guys are offering, and as well as just allowing us to come on the channel and really be part of your network.
Let's walk through a couple of examples just so we can show, real world. Because at first, when you hear this for the first time, you might go like,
how does this really work?
Like that just sounds too unbelievable to even be true. So let's get real world here for a bit. So we're going to share our screen. Okay. So let's just jump over to, so we just launched a couple new properties in the last number of months here. So here's a property. So full transparency, we'll give you both sides. So this is actually a spin on rental arbitrage. And then we're going to show you a true partnership type deal. So in this particular instance, what happened, we had a physician contact us and, she had moved, she tried to sell the property, couldn't get what she wanted.
Had been vacant, I think, for about 2 years. Like she wasn't getting any rent on it. It was a very stressful situation for her.
So what we ended up doing was, we had this discussion with her. We said, yeah, we could potentially work with you, but, we have to have the conversation about the furnishings. And she said, well, to be honest, like I'm not really in a position to do that right now. So the thing, what we did is, it's never a question of, well, we can't do it. It's a question of how can we do it? So essentially how this worked, because this is a single family home and there is more income potential here, what we actually did is we partnered with a money partner who put up the money in order to get the furnishings for this particular property. Now, full transparency, that ran us around $20K.
About $20K for the furnishings.
Give or take, because we really went overboard on some of the amenities. You can see here,
a little bit less than 75,000 that Matthew put in.
So, really nice property. I mean, as you can see, fairly new, only 3 reviews on it so far. If I jump over to my calendar here, so we're in July right now, so we're still finishing out some of the month. I did a quick calculation here. So this property so far has brought in for the month just shy of $8,500, give or take.
And guys, we still have some dates to sell.
Actually, we don't.
No, we're full.
We fully booked it up.
Yeah, look at that.
Okay. So now we have costs, right? So what kind of cost do we have? Well, on this particular deal, we do have rent. Okay. So we do still do rental arbitrage occasionally, but we just have a spin on it so that we're not having to come out of pocket on damage deposits and furnishings. So on this deal, we negotiated no damage deposit. So we didn't have to come out of pocket on that. And we had a money partner pay for the furnishings to get into this particular property. Okay. So what kind of expenses do we have? So rent on this is $2,000 a month. So I just did this here quickly. Utilities, roughly everything in is around $500. We had, I think, 7 cleans. So that ran us around $1,120. We have lawn maintenance come out, so that's around $60 because they only do twice a month cuts. And then we have $100 just for overall supplies that go into the property, right? So in July, we're going to book a profit of around $4,700 on this. Okay. Now keep in mind, we have 0 investment into this property. So no money out of pocket, nothing tied up with the damage deposit. Sure, we are paying rent, but I mean, as you can see by the earnings, that's more than covered in this case. So in this particular example, like we mentioned, we do have a money partner that we work with to get us into the deal in order to pay for the furnishings. So the arrangement we have with him, we basically just split profits 50-50. So if I cut this in half, we're going to clear about $2,300.
$2,350.
About $2,350. My partner, he gets $2,350. So the fact that he gave us 20 grand, I mean, on a return basis to the partner, that's pretty attractive. So you can see why he's very advantageous to want to fund our deals based on what he's getting back in return.
Now, is that in perpetuity?
So you can negotiate this however you want, right?
It could be up until furnishings are done, and then it changes to, it could be like on a scale. So when furnishings are paid back, it get to a different percentage. It's all, life is what you negotiate. So, you know, this particular partner, we have multiple deals with him, and he's our first go-to person. So for it, so because of it, it's in perpetuity with him because he funds all the next deals coming up as well. For that, his first option for it.
Go ahead and hit me up offline. I'm definitely interested in getting involved in that scenario.
All right.
Okay.
We can talk.
We can talk. Let's do another example here. So here's another property we launched within the last couple of months. So the difference here, this is really like what we call a short-term rental partnership. So similar dynamic in the fact that, so in this one, we have no rent, we had no deposit, and we did not spend a dime on the furnishings. Now, in this example, the homeowner actually paid for the furnishings, okay? Because he contacted us, he recently bought this property.
He wanted it managed appropriately. And he's like, how does it look to work with you guys? I'm like, great. It was that conversation I just talked about. You know, we don't pay like for any furnishings. We don't pay damage deposit. And, you know, we don't have a rent agreement, but this is how we can work together. So essentially at that point, we came to a deal here that we do a split of net profits after.
Yeah. So what happened here is he was kind of on the fence. He's like, well, should I just rent this long-term? Like, what's it, the short-term rental thing all about? We said, well, look, how much are you wanting to rent this for? He's like, I'm probably going to get around $2,500 a month. We said, well, let's do some research. So we did some comparables. We looked into the numbers. We said that you're going to be leaving a lot of money on the table. So if you agree to pay for the furnishings, we could help you bring in significantly more revenue on this property. Okay. So let's look at the actual numbers. So this is the month of July. Now, one of the things you notice here, this has a pool, right? So we live in Edmonton, Alberta, and having a pool here is seriously impractical because it is damn cold here.
So it gets to about -40 in winter, and we're sometimes the coldest city in the world. So really having an outdoor pool is not practical at all. But the thing is actually, and what's pretty unique about this too, we are the only pool on Airbnb in our city. Currently. Yeah. So that's a big deal. So really there's no comparables at that point. So whatever you make is the numbers it is.
we get excited over the simple stuff up here. So I mean, anyways, people,
I think that stuff stands out though. I mean, it helps separate you from everybody else. And, you know, I mean, in the hot months, kids are going to love it, right? I mean, it's going to obviously bring in a crowd.
Well, speaking of hot months, so let's talk about numbers here. So in the month of July, this property brought in more than $18,000 in 1 month. Okay. Now, granted, so this is live, so we're filming this on July the 22nd. I have a couple days left to fill. We're going to try to get these full. So we might be closer to 19, potentially maybe a little bit higher, but let's run through the numbers here. So again, that's gross revenue. So a lot of people on the internet, that's where they're going to stop and they're going to say, okay, well,
great, we made 18,000.
Right.
That's
so
it.
Let's
break this down.
Let's stick in reality land. Okay. So we had cleans. So the amount of cleans we had, that's going to run us around $1,500. We have utilities here. Okay. So that's going to be roughly $500. We have lawn care coming in. And then, you know, because there is a pool, there's a little bit more, you know, expense in upkeeping that. So when that's all said and done, net profit, because again, we're not taking rent, mortgage, any of that into account. That's not part of the agreement. We're booking a profit just based on the operations of the short-term rental of around $15,000. Okay. Excellent. Now, in our particular case, what we negotiated is we said to the homeowner, look, because you are making the investment in this property and you are getting it ready, how about we do a deal of 70-30? So 70% of the net profit goes to you. We keep 30% as a management fee. And that makes sense because it's their property. They put up the money. You should skew it a little bit in their favor to reward that investment that they made.
And that's net profit as well.
Correct.
Quite a few managers out there will take gross profit. We'll take a 30% off of, before any of these expenses come out. So that's the difference too. We would like to make it balanced with the homeowner because they're doing the lion's share of this. Like he paid about $25,000 in furnishings to get this up and running. So he should be making the lion's share back to it, right? So the thing is essentially here, we're signing a piece of paper as a service agreement and we are profitable month one.
Yeah.
That's the difference with this.
So there's no payback period here. But having said all that, so after after the expenses and everything, and we take our management fee, we cleared ourselves about $4,600. So just between these two properties in just the month of July, if I add these up together, and this is just 2 doors. Okay.
Right.
And we don't own these. We have no investment in them.
And we're at 33 properties now
So
of where we're at.
just on 2 places, we made about just shy of $7,000. And like Katrina mentioned, so we have 33 units. We started this back in
October 2018.
October 2018.
Started, yeah.
And we've now done just shy of about $2.3 million in the last 2.5 years.
I mean, the numbers clearly speak for themselves. Can we call a spade and just define this short-term rental partnership model as, it's hospitality management, right? I mean, you're basically a property management company, but you're not doing it for long-term tenants. You're doing it for short-term guests. And so you're very clearly in the hospitality business. I absolutely know that and admit to it about my short-term rental. And it's not a good fit for everybody, right? I mean, the worst part about the hospitality business are the guests, period. And the best part is creating a great experience for the guests. 99% of my experiences with the guests have been fantastic. It makes it worth it. And the 1% are the ones that just sort of make it the nightmare that people fear. And if you are not interested in being in the hospitality business, this is not going to be a good fit for you. But that's what you're being paid for. And true or false, the reason this is such a beautiful model and something that I would frankly go back and do if I lost everything, this would be what I would do. This would be how I would rebuild everything from scratch if I lost everything tomorrow, is because it's so easy to systemize. It's so easy to automate. It's so easy to template everything I do. And the reason it's 5 or 10 minutes a day at most is because I'm just copying and pasting texts and emails. It's almost all copying and pasting texts at this point. It requires very little effort. So I'm assuming that that's the same experience you're having. I'm assuming I'm not some anomaly over here with one property and you have 33, but it's totally different for you. Isn't it just 33 times what I'm doing?
Yeah, and actually, let me jump in here as well, real quick, but not to cut you off, Michael and Katrina, but, Matthew, you and I talk offline a lot. You had a well pump go out. So if I'm playing that kind of devil's advocate role, things like that are obviously expensive. They're timely. And if my memory serves me correctly, it was like a wedding party or something to that extent. So there was obviously a ton of a sense of urgency on that. And most people just don't deal well in those high pressure situations, particularly with hospitality, which is what this is. So if you could just kind of chat about that real fast, and then obviously we'll give the mic back over to Michael and Katrina. They can speak on that. Obviously 33 homes, that's blowing my mind. I didn't know that you guys were at that volume at this point. That's giving me a headache just thinking about it. I particularly don't like dealing with people in general, so I would probably exclude myself here.
Yeah, well, let's first of all touch on what you said. You're right. I mean, having anything kind of fall apart mid-stay is what I was sort of fearing the most, and it's why I'm preemptively replacing washers and dryers now that aren't even broken, because I'm like, well, if this goes out, then I'm going to have a similar situation. So yeah, I think you just have to be conscious of the life expectancy of the appliances and various things that are in there. I probably should have replaced that well pump a couple of years before I even had it looked at and thought about it, and decided not to. That wasn't a fun experience. Those guests got up and left. I refunded them for the rest of their stay. It was a wedding, so there were 8 people waiting to get showers in early in the morning, and my phone was blowing up at 6 a.m. wondering why the water was off. So it got dealt with. I managed to find somebody to get out there and fix it same day. You just have to be ready to solve problems, as with any business. But, you know, keep in line with what you said about 33 properties. I've even had the conversation with Michael and Katrina that to what end, right? Because yes, you could keep going and going and going, and all of a sudden you have a portfolio of 100 headaches. At the end of the day, looking at what they just demonstrated here, you have to pick and choose what your lifestyle goals are. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't have 33 properties. That's why I'm saying I retired on one, because it only took one for me to hit the numbers necessary. Now I've diversified into other income streams, absolutely. However, those other income streams are unnecessary for me to live the life I want at this point. They're just safety nets in case my town decides that short-term renting isn't allowed anymore for some silly reason. So no doubt about it. They're choosing to grow to a level that fits their needs. Anyone listening can choose to stop anytime they want, but it only takes a small number of these to replace a day job. That's the bottom line, in my opinion.
Yeah. And just to interject there, like, you know, everyone's right here is depends on who you are, what your personal goals are. And that's also why we decided to coach and coach directly, because, you know, one of our students she's in her 60s and she's doing this, and she just wanted, you know, at least $2,000 a month net cash flow to supplement her retirement. She got 2 properties and she's like, I'm good. And that was exactly what she wanted. Then we have other students that are like, you know, I want about $20,000 to $50,000, you know, net cash flow a month. And we're like, okay, we're going to have to hustle and we can scale it to that point. And it has that capability. That's what I love about short-term rentals, Airbnbs, VRBO, all these, like, you can make a choice and it's scalable, especially when you're doing rental arbitrage and partnerships, because I mean, essentially when you're signing pieces of paper and not putting any money in, the sky's the limit at that point of how fast you can scale.
Yeah,
well, and that's the cool thing about all 3 of these examples is not $1 came out of pocket for any of us by way of creatively using ingredients that were available to us. So look, it probably doesn't require us to beat this horse anymore, Dad. I know this video has gone on quite a while. Let's go ahead and wrap up, guys. If you're interested in getting involved and being one of the only 10 that are available right now for this workshop with Michael and Katrina, this is a very interactive experience. It will get you where you need to be in order for this to work for you. Make sure you email bnbbootcamp@vipfinancialeducation.com. Again, link will be in the description for you to make it easier. Put your first name and last name in the email body, or we won't have any way to get a hold of you. And Michael and Katrina will determine whether or not it's a fit. As they'd mentioned, the price of their program is $18,000. They're discounting it for our audience. The first 4 folks that get in will pay just under $10K, and everybody else will still receive a discount, a very, very good discount to $11,997. So get going. It doesn't have to be your money that funds your ability to get somebody like Michael and Katrina to work alongside you to make your business a success. You could use debt weapons like 0% interest credit cards. You can use debt weapons like home equity lines of credit. You can use debt weapons like unsecured personal lines of credit, or even best yet, you can use an unsecured business line of credit that doesn't even show up on your credit report and gives you access to the tax deductibility. Keep in mind that investing into partnerships, mentorships, coaches like Michael and Katrina is a tax deductible expense, folks. It's part of your business. This is what all of us do to be successful. The fact that these guys built their business on their own without mentors in the beginning blows my mind. They do work with mentors and coaches today. I'm just one of them. Every time we speak, they're telling me the other game plans that they're working through with their other mentors, coaches, and partners. So for those of us that are in business, we don't do it alone. And if you're going about your business trying to do it by yourself, you're not a real business. You're still a beginner. You're a little tiny seedling of a business. And eventually, in order to be successful and to grow to levels that truly create independence, you're probably going to need to expect to work with people that help you get there. So with that being said, anything else you guys want to add?
Honestly, we just, again, we really appreciate you inviting us back on. We love this. We love connecting with you guys and your audience. This is incredible. Guys, we're super easy to get a hold of. So reach out anytime. We'd love to have a conversation.
Yeah. So again, that email is bnbbootcamp@vipfinancialeducation.com. So bnbbootcamp@vipfinancialeducation.com. So Matt, thank you so much for having us on again. It's truly been a pleasure working with you guys. And
Michael, always a pleasure as well. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, my
guys
part.
are all
My parting shots would be, you guys make me smile. You know, I'm a lifelong entrepreneur. I've never really held a job since graduating from college. So, you know, you guys motivate me, you know, and I've done multiple startups, not anything under this realm, of course. And I'd like to talk to you guys offline about, you know, some of the things you guys mentioned today. I was unaware of those, but Matthew, love having you on the channel, brother. We wish you could join us more often. Michael and Katrina, looking forward to talking to you guys soon. So happy for your successes right now. Literally makes my day.
Thank you. Thank you guys. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you guys. All right. Talk soon.
Bye.
Bye.